So for the last couple of months, a pop culture story has really taken over the internet, and that would be the Free Britney story. A group of people, I think they're out of California, are starting to think that Britney Spears is, and this is all allegedly, but that she's trapped. And she is under conservatorship. She has been since 2008. And the story just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And yesterday, she actually made a personal address to the LA judge who was handling her conservatorship. And I read the whole transcript, and it was, if what she's saying is true, it was very jarring. She describes a life where she has no control. She doesn't make any of her own decisions. She's making everybody tons of money. She's working around the clock. And I just want to say this before we even get into it, because we are bringing on an expert, a legal expert. I have always had a soft spot for Britney Spears for a multitude of reasons. One, my first CD I ever got was a Britney Spears CD. Two, I think she belongs to a very small group of people, and this is not a dig on any of those people. This is just how I refer to it, as freak show fame, where you get famous at such a young age, and you have so much public scrutiny, and your life becomes this circus. It's a freak show. And there's really nothing you can do to stay normal. There's nothing going for you that's going to make you normal or keep you stable. And I think Britney Spears, at least for when I was growing up, was the prime example of that. People were so mean to her. I remember the late night comedians. It was okay at that point to just be brutal to celebrities. And she was a young girl when she got really famous. And she always seemed, to me, and this is just my opinion, obviously, but she always seemed really sweet, you know, like if she hadn't been this mega famous star, she would have just been happy with a normal life. She didn't seem to love the fame aspect of it. Now, other people have different opinions, but either way, if what she said yesterday to this judge was true, then this case is insane. I mean, her dad is her guardian and he makes all of her decisions. And she's saying things that she can't even control, whether or not she's on birth control. She can't, drive a car. There was all different elements to it. But I was very curious about this whole thing because Rose McGowan was on with Tucker Carlson last night. It's picking up a lot of steam. People seem to be very interested in this. So next up, I'm bringing on an attorney, Marc Salinas, and he's from Silva and Salinas, and he's going to kind of explain to us the details of what a conservatorship is and what he thinks of this case. Marc, thank you so much for joining the Grace Curley Show.
Thanks, Grace. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very intrigued by this because this has been happening since 2008. And for a long time, when Britney would be asked about it, she said, everything's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. And now she's changed her tune. She came out yesterday and said, there's way too much control. I don't have any control over my life or any of my decisions. I don't have any agency. What do you think about conservatorships in general, Marc? Like, what are they?
Well, it can be really scary for sure. In Massachusetts, we call them guardianships. There's actually both of these things, guardianships and conservatorships. But essentially what you have is you have one person is being appointed by the court to make decisions for another person. And it can be very limited in scope, or in the case of, poor Britney here, she's in a situation where there's a full or general guardianship over virtually all of her affairs, everything from her healthcare decisions to support, her welfare, her career, her education, everything.
Yeah, but Marc, see, this is what I find interesting because you were explaining to me earlier that sometimes people can be in charge of your finances, but not necessarily in charge of your decisions. I read somewhere today that usually with this, people can decide, where they want to go or what they get an allowance and things like that. But even when you're a kid, there are certain things that you kind of have a freedom to decide for yourself. It sounds like in this case with Britney, what she's describing, Marc, I want to play for you this cut. This was Britney. This was leaked sound, I believe, cut 26.
This conservatorship is doing me way more harm than good. I deserve to have a life. I've worked my whole life. I deserve to have a 2 to 3 year break and just, do what I want to do. But I do feel like there is a crunch here, and I feel like I feel open and I'm okay to talk to you today about it, but I wish I could stay with you on the phone forever, because when I get off the phone with you, all of a sudden, I hear all these no's. No, no, no. And then all of a sudden I feel ganged up on, and I feel bullied, and I feel left out and alone. And I'm tired of feeling alone. I deserve to have the same rights as anybody does by having a child, a family, any of those things, and more so. And that's all I wanted to say to you. And thank you so much for letting me speak to you.
Now, Mark, can she have an attorney, or can she have someone representing her, or does she not have that option because of the conservatorship?
No, 100%. She would be appointed an attorney if she wasn't able to get one for herself. In any type of proceeding like this, in every jurisdiction that I know of, the court's going to make sure that someone's legal interests are protected that way. It's heartbreaking listening to what Britney is saying in these proceedings, but I'll tell you that what she's describing, whether or not it's true or not, I'll tell you this. It's certainly within the realm of possibility of what she is experiencing is happening to her, because that's what happens to people that are under a guardianship or a conservatorship.
Yeah, and Mark, you had said to me earlier, I'm talking with Marc Salinas from Silva and Salinas. You had said to me earlier that a lot of times they'll bring in a third party, someone who doesn't have anything to gain. Now, in this case, Britney Spears' conservator is her father, and he definitely does have something to gain. I'm not saying whether or not that's true, but just factually, I mean, he's going to want her to make more money if he thinks he's going to benefit from that.
It's so important to have a third party involved in these cases. Now, in Britney Spears' case, from time to time, there has been a co-conservator that's been attached to this case to look at those conflict of interest issues. But that's really what Britney is saying. Her father, Jamie, has complete control over all of her finances. And if the court's going to examine that, they're going to say, okay, well, look, does the person that has the guardianship over the other have a financial gain? Is there any hostility between, the parties? And that's certainly true in this case. Britney's been reporting for, over a decade that it's her father that's profiting from this guardianship, not her. And essentially she's become, an employee to her father. And there's been this whole host of hostility, between Britney and her father, and Britney, the father of Britney's children. It's just never ending.
Yeah, and if you had to guess, Mark, how do you think this is going to play out? What's the next step as far as Britney's concerned?
Okay, so here's what I see. This hearing that just came about was interesting because it seemed to be done on somewhat of an emergency basis. But from what I understand, Britney is yet to file, or she's about to file, what would be the petition to terminate the guardianship. Or the conservatorship as referred to in California. So I think this is setting the stage here for Britney's final hearing in proceedings to terminate this conservatorship. And I wouldn't be surprised if this wasn't somewhat of a strategy by her legal team to have this hearing to start getting the court of public opinion on her side on this. I mean, it's getting incredible media attention. And that's going to put a lot of pressure on all the parties to really examine what's going on here.
I was just going to ask you that because, I mean, I was looking today at the courthouse and there's all these people and there's something to be said for that, too. Like people getting so invested. They don't know any of the details either. There's this documentary that's out. It makes people feel like they're part of something. I don't know if they're doing more harm than good or what, but how much does that affect what actually happens in the courtroom? I mean, these judges who are looking over this, do you think they're feeling that? Like, oh, God, we have to do something. It's all over the news. Or do you think they can kind of separate it?
Well, look, all of us that are working in the court system, we're all human, and we do our best to try to set these things aside. And, I know that the judges, they try their best to do so. But, when the microscope is on them, you have to ask yourself and wonder, is that going to affect the decision? We'd all like to think that it wouldn't, but with those crowds of people up there, you got to wonder if it does have some impact on them.
And Mark, this is my last question for you. So when this originally started up and people were, I mean, it's been going on since 2008 that she's been under this conservatorship, but it was just within the last year that it really picked up a lot of public attention. A lot of people are saying, oh, well, she can transfer it to someone else. That's what she should go for, because it's so hard. It would be so hard for Britney Spears to terminate it and to kind of, have her own freedoms, that it's just easier for her to change the conservatorship from one person to another. To me, that's crazy that it's this powerful of a thing, that the idea that she could ever get out of it is insane to people, that it makes more sense for her just to switch over who's going to have control of her versus saying, listen, I'm in a good state of mind. I can handle this now. Why is that part of it almost seems like it's an impossible thing in the court systems?
Well, it's a difficult challenge to overcome, and what you're going to see is anyone who's looking to terminate a guardianship or a conservatorship, they're going to get a medical expert. They're going to get their own treatment team in place that's going to say, she's been through a battery of psychological examinations. We don't think that there's a problem anymore, and she can manage her own affairs. What I think you're going to see here is that Britney's at the point now that she's going to be looking to terminate this guardianship. She doesn't want to be under the thumb of anyone any longer in her career.
Yeah, and I don't blame her. I was reading stuff that they were telling her, oh, you can't go get your nails done because, and this is all allegedly, but they were saying, everything's shut down. And she said she was looking at the cleaning people and she could see that they had gotten their nails done. And so she knew people were lying to her. It sounded really scary, like a horror movie. Everyone telling you, oh, no, you have to listen to us. Oh, this is your new medication. Oh, you have to go on tour. It really did sound, the way she described it, Mark, sounded, at least to me, terrifying.
Yeah, it's terrifying, no doubt. And as I said, that's not an exaggeration. Certainly, if she's under this general full guardianship, those basic day-to-day decisions, sometimes she's going to be inhibited from doing really anything that she wants to do in her day-to-day life.
Marc Salinas, thank you so much for joining the show. Where can people find you if they want to give you a call and ask you some questions, maybe about their own legal quandaries?
Yeah, sure. You can find us at silvasalinas.com. Donna Silva, my partner, and I have an office in North Andover. We're pretty easy to find, and I'm always willing to talk to people.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'm sure we'll be calling you again with our next celebrity legal question. I'm always following the courts of Page 6. Thank you very much. The reviews are in for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier. One user wrote, simple to use and easy to install. Just plug them in. I have 3 dogs and I bought 3. I love the change. We've been talking for weeks about the Thunderstorm helping with allergies. I've been reading a lot of stories about how allergies are the worst this year. I mean, it's hard to judge it, but people are saying for the last couple of years, they haven't seen it this bad.
Yeah, this has been easily the worst period for me in terms of just constantly being, having congestion, the sore throat, watery eyes, all that stuff. It's brutal. Even people like the mailroom manager don't usually have allergies. They're being affected by this as well. But if you have the Eden Pure Thunderstorm, you're good as gold because all you need to do is plug it in, you turn it on, and in a couple minutes, it starts ionizing the air around you, which is creating a super oxygen so that you're actually breathing clean air while eliminating, not just covering up, eliminating allergens, pollutants, viruses, things in the air that you just don't want to be breathing.
Yes, if you like fresh air, you need the Thunderstorm air purifier. It's so small, you can hold it up in the palm of your hand. I'm actually going to hold it up for the YouTube stream right now. When you're cooking, you may not like the lingering smell of fish or garlic or whatever, especially if you microwave stuff. That smell gets everywhere. You just plug in the Eden Pure air purifier, turn it on, crank it up for maybe 5 minutes. The smell is completely gone. If you guys want to get your hands on this, order the Thunderstorm today at EdenPure.com. Click on the Grace banner and put in code word GRACE10. I'm going to say that one more time nice and slow. Go to EdenPure.com. Click on the Grace banner and put in code word GRACE10. That problem room will no longer be a problem. We will be back. We'll take some of your calls, 844-500-4242. We got a little bit more sound for you. And this is the Grace Curley Show.
You can call her late for dinner. Just don't call her Gracie. It's the Grace Curley Show.